What's up, guys? Welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Riddell, and I'm excited as this is our first ever openings video. We're going to be going over the Giuoco Piano, and I've been playing this opening for almost 15 or so years now, and I think it holds a lot of value. I recommend this as a potential opening for players of any level, but especially for beginners, because it doesn't require tons and tons of hours and studying of variations that in some openings can last 20 to 30 moves. The Giuoco Piano is simple, easy to master, and it works. If black plays perfectly, the position will be equal, and white is still very comfortable. So let's just hop right in. It starts with e4, e5, knight f3, attacking the pawn on e5, knight c6, defending it. Here we see bishop c4, bishop c5, and the move c3. Now the idea of c3 is to help aid in the potential move d4. And in some variations, even b4. So here for black, the best move is knight f6, which puts pressure on this pawn on e4. But let's just take a look if black doesn't do this move and he plays something like d6. Well, this just allows white to take control of the center with the move d4. And after a move like e takes d4 and c takes d4, bishop e4 check, and knight c3, we see that white's sitting very comfortably here with a pawn on e4, a pawn on d4, very easy development, and a very nice position. So after c3, knight f6 is the best move for black, putting pressure on that pawn on e4. And here, white has two options. The first is to play d3, which defends the pawn on e4, right? The second option is to play d4, which attacks the bishop on c5. So we're going to start by going over d3. Either of these options work with the white pieces. It just depends on what you prefer. Now the move d3 gives white and black a very flexible position. White could play moves like bishop e3 or bishop g5. White could castle. White could even start pushing on the queen side with a move like b4. White has a lot of options here, and the position is very quiet. And in this position, both sides can calculate 5 to 10 moves ahead just based on where they want to put their pieces, right? So let's take a look at if black plays something like d6. I'll give you my recommendation. I think that white should castle here. And then after a move like, say, castles with black, I personally like pushing on the queen side with b4. And after bishop b6, a4. Now we're threatening to play a5, right? Trapping the bishop on b6. So here black can play a6 or a5, but a6 is slightly better, giving the bishop some breathing room on a7 if needed. And here I like the move bishop g5, which pins the knight to the queen, right? And we see that black is a little uncomfortable in this position with the pressure that the bishop is putting on the knight. And a lot of black players in this position might be tempted to play something like h6, and after bishop h4, g5. I've played a lot of games with this opening, and I see this come up a lot. And usually I wouldn't recommend you to do this, but in this position, knight takes g5 is a great move. Idea being after h takes c5, we can play bishop takes g5. Now, true, we just gave up a piece, and we only got 2 pawns, but we see that the king on g8 is very uncomfortable. Now we're really putting pressure on this knight. The next move for white is probably going to be queen f3, putting more pressure on the knight. I just think that this is a very comfortable position to play with, and I do not recommend black to play something like h6 and g5 just because he's uncomfortable with the knight being pinned on f6, right? So after bishop g5, I think a move like bishop d7 is fine, right? Like bishop d7. Here white can play knight bd2, and we're just playing chess, right? The Giuoco Piano is a simple opening, so that's d3. So with the move d3, it leads to a very flexible position and a very simple game. Now the second option is to play d4. And with d4, you're going to have to memorize a few lines. Nothing too complicated. Here the best move for black is to take the pawn on d4. And after c takes d4, the only move that gives black a chance at equality here is bishop b4 check. Right? For example, if black plays something like bishop e7, here, again, we have a nice pawn on d4 and a nice pawn on e4. We could push with d5. And after knight a5, bishop d3. And this position is very uncomfortable for black. And this knight is not sitting very well. Now naturally, black would want to develop the bishop on c8, right? Maybe to g4. But the problem is, after d6, we could play b4. And the knight on a5 is trapped. So needless to say, this is very uncomfortable to play with black. And after c takes d4, bishop b4 check is the only move that gives black a chance at equality. We see bishop d2. This is the best move for white here. And here, black has two options. Black can take the bishop on d2 with check, or take the pawn on e4. We're going to go over knight takes e4 first. Black sees the pawn on e4 and takes it. And it might seem as if black's up a pawn here. The problem is, now white can play bishop takes b4. And after knight takes b4, bishop takes f7 check. And after king takes f7, we're down a full piece, but now we have queen b3 check. Right? The king on f7 is being checked, and the knight on b4 is about to fall. An example line is d5, queen takes b4. And here, rook f8, queen b3, king g8, bringing the king to safety, castles, bishop g4, putting some pressure on this knight on f3. White can just play knight bd2. And I'd say that white's slightly better here, but the position's roughly equal, and again, we're just playing chess. Now, I think knight takes e4 is a good option for black. And another option, which is just as good, is bishop takes d2. Here the best move is knight takes b2. And in this position, the best move for black is to play d5. The reason for this is that if black doesn't play d5, we have a strong pawn on e4, a strong pawn on d4, and e5 and d5 are coming. And if black doesn't play d5, we're basically just going to steamroll over the black camp. So d5 is a must move for the black pieces here. And here we can just take on d5. And after knight takes d5, we play queen b3, putting some pressure on the knight on d5. Now here there's two moves for black. The first move is knight a5. And if knight a5 is played, your opponent is basically looking for a draw. We see after queen a4 check, the best move is knight c6. And we see that if we just play queen b3 here, we're in the same position we just were. So if the position repeats itself 3 times, that's a threefold repetition and it's a draw. Now, I would like to say, and this happened to me once in a tournament game, my opponent played c6 instead of knight c6. The problem is after c6, again, this knight on a5 is not very well placed. White can just play bishop takes d5, and after queen takes d5, castles. And after castles, rook fe1. Right now, white is threatening to play rook e5, right? Putting pressure on this knight on a5, and the knight is about to fall. So b6 is forced here, and here white can just play rook e5, and after queen d6, rook ae1. This position is obviously better for white, so I would strongly advise against playing c6 on move 11 with the black pieces. So again, one option for black was to play the move knight a5. The other option is to play knight ce7. Here, white can castle, and after c6, rook fe1. Right? And after castles, knight e4. And here, this is the best line for black and the most popular line for black, and I think white's doing just fine here. We have an active rook on e1. We're about to move the rook on a1 to c1, where it will be active. We have a knight on e4 that has a potential c5 square. We have a knight on f3 that has a potential e5 square. White's doing just fine here, and we're just playing chess. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments about what you thought of the Giuoco Piano, and let me know if there's any other games you want to see on this channel. Thanks for watching today's video. If you'd like to watch another one, you can click or tap up here, and I've got a lot more high quality chess content on the way. So if you'd like to subscribe, you can click or tap down here. I really appreciate your support.